This Skillet Pear Crisp is autumnal and it has all the right flavors with a little bit of cardamom. It has toasted pecans, has everything you want, and it's easy. Let's make it. So to start, this pear crisp is much like any other crisp, like the classic apple crisp, with a few little twists. And I think the thing is, pears are so delicious, and when they're in season, they have a sweetness, they have flavor, and you just want to enhance it and make something delicious, and that's what this is. So to start, we're gonna be making a streusel topping, which is a lot like others. So we're gonna start with some flour. That flour gives it a good base, gives it that good texture we need. We're gonna add in some oats. It's not, too many oats, it's just enough to offset that balance of texture and give you that nice oatiness. Oatiness, you know what I mean. And then some brown sugar. We're gonna put the brown sugar right in there, a little bit of salt because that kind of evens out any sweetness we have. And then the spices. So oftentimes when we get to crisps and we think apples, we think fall, we always gravitate towards cinnamon. I love cinnamon. There's nothing wrong with cinnamon. I love it. But sometimes it's good to branch out, and that's what we're doing with cardamom. Cardamom is more earthy and more spicy, but in a sweet way than cinnamon. It's not spicy like hot spicy. It just has this nice, wonderful aroma to it that you just can't beat. So we're gonna put in some cardamom. It's a stronger spice, so a little goes a long way. And I think it's complemented really well with a little bit of nutmeg. And if I can, I always use fresh ground nutmeg, not because it's pretentious, which I know it sounds pretentious, but it's because nutmeg can go bad really quickly and we don't use it very quickly in our spice cabinet. But when it's in a whole form like this, it doesn't go bad as quickly and you can just freshly grate some and you get all that flavor. So I'm just gonna use my hand because that's the best whisk here. And we're gonna just mix this up slightly. And then what we're gonna do is add in now this butter. The butter is gonna bind all this together. So when we have all the butter in there, we're just gonna start working this together. I like to coat each piece of butter as I'm going. See, you can just make sure it gets somewhat coated in the flour and the dry mixture. See how that's working? And then what I do is I start just picking up each piece of butter one by one, and I start pushing it between my thumb and forefingers, and it just flattens it out slightly, but leaves these chunks. So we're gonna do that until it kind of becomes a coarse, sandy cornmeal texture. So we have the streusel pretty much mixed together, which I'll show you, but now I'm just chopping up some pecans. So I toasted these in the oven first. I think anytime you use a nut, especially in baking, you may think, well, it's gonna go into the oven. Why? But toast it before. Its oils come out, you get more flavor. It actually holds better texture and structure when it goes in for baking again. It doesn't get soggy as much. It, to me, is just super essential. Now, these don't work into a streusel the same, so I add them after. What you can see here, what I love is, I have this mixture that slightly holds together, but very loosely, and you see some big pieces of butter, some smaller pieces. That's exactly what you want. And now we're gonna add in all of these chopped toasted pecans, which they're craggy, they're different size pieces, but guess what? That's the best part. This is going into cast iron. So I feel like that just automatically means it's rustic. And that gives us the ability to kind of do whatever we want. So you don't have to follow rules. It's a crisp, but look at that. All this is now pushed together and you get this beautiful, it to me screams the essence of fall. Even though we're just getting to the beginning of the idea of fall, this is kind of that great autumnal thing when pears are coming into season. So now that that's made, that's ready to go, we can talk pears. You can use any pear here. You just wanna make sure they're ripe. I'm using Bartlett, and you can see they're getting pretty ripe because of the brown spots. They'll start getting more brown, a little bit of yellowing on them, and that's completely normal with a pear. And that's what you want. So what I'm gonna do here is, I'm gonna cut them in half. You can choose however you wanna prepare your pears. I am someone that when it comes down to it, I don't mind in a crisp having peel. Same with apple, same with a lot of things. I think it adds texture, but also, again, I'm breaking any rule. This is a rustic thing, we don't need to. So I'm just taking the core out, and then I'm just gonna slice them and keep them somewhat long. See how big of long pieces I'm doing? And I'm just gonna keep them in nice slices. So you still see that it's a pear, you see what you're baking with, you see what you're eating, and you get some nice pieces when it actually bakes up. So I'm gonna keep slicing and getting these all ready, and we'll just put it together. I have all the pears in here. It looks like a lot, but the thing is when you're having a crisp, it's about the fruit. You wanna have that hefty amount of fruit and it bakes down. So now we just wanna create a quick filling. We don't want it to be overly sweet. We don't want it to be overly thick, just well balanced because it's a crisp. So you want it still to have that viscosity. You want the fruit still to have its structure. So I'm gonna start with putting a little bit of citrus in it. So we're just gonna cut a lemon open. the citrus actually, surprisingly, citrus to me is that magic ingredient that you can use in everything, savory, sweet, but what it does is it actually brings out more flavor from what you're eating. So with this, it actually brings out more pear flavor. This was a very hefty one that did not have a lot of give. I should have put it in the microwave to warm it up, but I'm gonna have to squeeze both sides. You can see it doesn't have a lot of juice for how big and nice of lemon as. Sometimes lemons, when you get them, they have that rind on them and it's so thick and then you're just like, where's the lemon? Anyway, so we have the lemon in here. We're gonna add some flour, just enough that it kind of thickens a little bit, but does not make it gluey, does not make it pasty. We want it just slightly. We're gonna add some sugar. Again, you can see this isn't a ton of sugar because when you use fruit that's in season, you don't need a ton of sugar. You need just enough. We're gonna add a little bit of salt. You know why. I don't need to say it. It enhances everything. It balances out sweetness. It's good. We're gonna add in a little bit of cardamom again. I like to marry flavors. So since the top has some cardamom, I want the bottom to have some cardamom too. And then we're gonna put in just a little bit more of this ground nutmeg right here on top. After you have the nutmeg in, it's just all stirring it together. So these are nice big slices and like wedges more of pear. So it kind of could be cumbersome to stir it, but it's worth it. You can see instantly juices start pouring out of the pears, which is exactly what you want because it's mixing with the sugar, with the flour. Look at that dripping. That's, I'm getting excited, I'm getting hungry. So we're gonna put all the pears right into I'm using a cast iron skillet. Use a baking dish if you want to, you don't have to use a skillet. I just think a skillet screams rusticness, and I think there's something with a skillet that elevates it, but in a way that makes it seem informal. I don't know how that is, but believe me, it works. And you wanna make sure you get all those juices in there too. Do you see all those? You want those in there because that's part of the flour, that's the sugar, that's those spices, everything. So just kind of roughly push them out somewhat evenly, and then we'll put the streusel on top. So now we have the streusel. And again, there's no magic to this. You just put it on top. And see, what's great about a streusel is it has those chunks of butter that will melt over and create a richness and just a deliciousness to this. I mean, look at that. You just have to take your time and enjoy this. It's a beauty. Now you're gonna see I designed this recipe to, guess what? Have a lot of streusel. Let's be honest, we don't need to like hide this fact that we all love the streusel just as much as the fruit. So there's a lot of streusel here. So we can all be happy. Guys, if the fact of life, if it makes you happy to have streusel or more of it, make more of it. That's just the point here. So it's all spread out, somewhat even, and now we're just gonna pop this in the oven, and just like a pie, where this is much easier in a pie, but you want it to cook all the way to the center. You want it to be bubbling into the center to make sure the flour's activated, that all that fruit is evenly getting baked. So this is gonna bake a while, but it's gonna be beautiful, and it's gonna be delicious. So you can see this came out of the oven a little while ago. I had to let it cool down. Just if you try to just serve it right away, the juices are still really thin and they'll just kind of watery, where if it sits a little bit and comes a little bit closer to temperature, still warm, but it will be a little bit more put together and just better. So now we can just serve it up. Now I think this calls for a big scoop of, I mean, we could say vanilla ice cream, but can we also say maybe some cinnamon ice cream? Yeah, it's getting to be that time of year. And this is what I love. See how the juices, if you look in the pan, the juices are still runny, but they have a viscosity to them and they're slightly thickened. That's that just enough flour to pull it together, but not too much that it's just like paste. I'm gonna do it and I'm just gonna try it for you. Oh, you know what I love? I love the cardamom. I love that we switched up cinnamon with cardamom, and it really just brings out, to me, more of a pear flavor. Cardamom has the ability to have a little bit more earthiness, a little bit more oomph to it, and that's what the pears need. And the pears, see with the skins just darken, but they are so soft that you can just cut right through them like they're not even there. They're melt in your mouth. That streusel has a great mix of textures with those toasted pecans, and then the oats. The butteriness really comes into the pears and on top. This is great. What I like is it's easy, it's in a skillet, it's rustic, but it can also use the seasonal produce of pears. And who doesn't want to do that? Because pears are those things that you see and don't always think of how to use. So what do I hope you do with this? I hope you make it. I hope you maybe have people over, enjoy it, or eat it all for yourself. I'm not going to tell anyone. I hope you share this video around because guess what? If I can do this, I hope everyone else can see that this is so doable and you can do it in your own homes wherever you are. So check it out, check my website, wiseguy.com for this recipe, all my others. Until next time, have something of the season and just enjoy it. That's the point.